From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, you and I just came back from Money 2020, which was an amazing fintech convention out in Vegas. And don't worry, audience, I made sure Matt was home and in bed by 10 p.m. every single night. But the startup space in America is phenomenal. It's vibrant. It is not suffering from any sort of economic downturn, but it's a species in its own on how they communicate their message, on how they market themselves. So today on the podcast, we have Anne Laffin, the CEO and founder of Fin Marketing, which coincidentally is a marketing consultant for early stage startups. Did you see that coincidence coming, Matt? And welcome to the podcast. Tell us, everyone listening right now is in small business and they market 24/7. It's in their genes. It's in their blood. All they do is market. What makes marketing for a startup slightly different than marketing for all other species of business?
Well, for an early stage company, a big hurdle to get over is just awareness, quite honestly, right? If you're very early stage, you usually have very few resources. Resources can be human resources, can be financial resources. So getting the word out is extra challenging. So you have to depend a lot on kind of these organic strategies, things like your website, maybe some social media, some word of mouth, to really help spread the word that you even exist.
So what do you see the biggest problem most fintech companies when they enter their space come into, especially in marketing, right? Because most people in fintech are they're software designers. They're not marketers. They really like talking to people sometimes. So How do you help them get the word out?
Well, I mean, there's two parts to that question, right? The first is, excuse me, you end up hearing a lot about features instead of benefits. And to be perfectly honest with you, at the end of the day, people want to know what's in it for them. So in the latest fintech software that's coming out, they have to make sure they're not just sitting there listing out a laundry list of here's what we do here, here's what we do here. It's here's how I help you. Here's how I solve a problem for you. And so if you are emailing, if you are in social, if you're at a conference, making sure that you are addressing those customer pain points is essential right from the get-go.
Okay. So when you're marketing, are you bringing these fintech companies? Because I know a lot of them don't try to go directly to consumer. They try to do channel partnerships. Do you help with that with them? And can you explain to the audience a little bit about what that is?
So let's say, for example, your target audience is financial advisors. You might go direct to them, but to your point, you also might partner with broker-dealers that have a large audience of advisors that they can give access to and make a nice partnership with that broker-dealer so that pricing can maybe come down a little bit. There's just almost guaranteed access because they now have access to this large pool of advisors. So it's a great way to increase awareness, drop some pricing, and get some security, quite honestly.
How important is it to get the message right at the beginning?
I'm not even sure that's a real thing, to be honest with you. Because, and I say that because I would love to say everyone's going to knock it out of the park right away. But again, going back to the comment on resourcing, so few people do. And so while I do think it's important to be shooting to get the message right out of the gate, what's more important is that you're testing it, is that you're trying it out with who you think is your target audience and seeing like, yeah, that resonates with me. Ask them, does this make sense? Did you relate to that? You have to talk to your customers or your potential customers to see, are we on the right track? And if you're not, you got to adjust. And that's okay. Totally.
So with a software platform like most of them out there. That's what I think of when I think of fintech,
Totally.
right?
Yep, I get it.
Everybody's trying to automate everything. So sending out
Mhm.
emails, you're doing surveys. What are some tactical things that people can do?
I like to think of marketing as a salad. Bear with me. Not everyone likes salad. We can change the analogy if you want, but salad is not just lettuce, right? Salad is lettuce, tomato, cucumbers, croutons, and the same thing with marketing. So you need.
Hey, Ann, can I just translate for my partner for a second?
Sure.
Matt, it's like going to a churrascaria. It's not just beef. They also have lamb and chicken and pork, okay? All right, and we're on the same page now. He got it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And so I would recommend having a varied strategy of tactics, right? Or a varied mix of tactics where you have email and reach out that way, organic social, reach out that way, in-person events, reach out that way. And of course, you need, I'm thinking of these early stage companies that don't have a lot of maybe funding or people. Relying on your website and getting content onto your website is still an important tactic. SEO is still a thing. And being credible is always a thing and will never go out of fashion. So making sure that you have a nice variety, a nice mix of tactics in your strategy is key.
Now, I heard you say organic social. I didn't hear you say paid.
Yeah.
Are you not a believer in paid?
I am a believer in paid, and I would definitely throw that into the mix. The one thing that I will caveat that with, though, is that paid social can get very expensive. Now, there are nice targeting options, and I'm a firm believer in trying things out. But for those that are strapped for cash, paid social or Google ads may not be the right tactic to go for right out of the gate when you might not know exactly what your message is. You might not know exactly who your audience is. So while I do believe in it, I think I would err on the side of caution until you're a little more ready.
So what would you say a goal should be for a startup company that's coming out the gates and like, well, I can tell you what the market is. And if we only get 1%, when they're pitching me, they tell me this all the time. So I invest in them. And if we only get 1% market share, we'll be there. But what's a realistic expectation inside of 12 months for them to have? How many users would you say to acquire?
Truthfully, I don't know if I can answer that, right? 1,000?
I think that's fair. And I also believe it depends on the client though, too, the type of client that they're reaching, right? If you have a client that's you're at $150,000 ticket, it's a little different than somebody at $20 ticket.
It is. Well. I mean, that's a fair point, right? It really does depend. If you're a monthly subscription at $150, like I think that might be a realistic goal, maybe within 18 months. But it depends. Yeah, if your software is 10K, 20K a month, then probably not.
Yeah, exactly. There's not so many. It's enterprise level.
No.
So besides just being underfunded, what other challenges do you think startups in general face?
To me, it's a bit of chaos and disorganization. And some of that you'll see in the messaging, which is actually one of the first things that I'll look at when I bring on a new client. And to no fault of their own, but you've started with a founder, maybe a co-founder and somebody else. And what I see is the message that's on the website doesn't match what's on the flyer, doesn't match what's being said on the phone. You get where I'm going with this, right? So There's just a lot of disorganization. And they need help bringing the pieces together, whether it's just messaging or just their strategy as a whole. It's just been kind of piecemeal, and it's understandable, right? Again, they're just trying to get by. And I think the other thing is just overwhelm. Most first-time founders, they've never been a CEO. They had a great idea for a company, and they don't necessarily know how to run a business, or they're learning how to run a business as they go. So not only are they trying to get the word out there and market appropriately, but they're also trying to really figure out for the first time how to be a good CEO and make a good product. It's a lot of moving pieces, and I feel for them, but I also love it. I think there's so much opportunity.
So you're one of those that thrive on adrenaline and chaos.
A little bit, yeah. Got Got a little bit of that in me. Yeah.
So is there like you have like, I know you're coming up and you're coming out with a course, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I just like most other entrepreneurs, right? We're always looking for ways that we can help and improve our own offering. And this idea came up of starting a course. Over the course of my career, I've done a ton of email marketing, and I really do believe it can be a very useful tool for startups. It's one of the few channels where you really own your assets, right? If social media got shut off tomorrow, what are you going to do? But I've got my email list, right? I own my email list and I can email that list. And so the idea for this is email 101 for early stage founders that don't have a ton of resources, maybe don't really understand how to set up a good and effective email campaign, or their junior staff, again, that doesn't maybe have a lot of knowledge around email marketing, gives them templates, tactics, glossary of terms, all the things that they will need to hit the ground running with email within 4 sessions. So it's fun. Testing it now. Yeah.
And let me ask you a question, because you have a wonderful case study example that worked well. One of the firms that you worked for was a startup.
Mm-hmm.
The name shall go unmentioned, but they did really well in this space, and they're still vibrant in this space. What did they do right that assured them of their success? Was it diversity? Was getting the message right? Obviously, their marketing was spot on, right?
I'd like to think so. You know what? I'm going to use the salad analogy again here because it applies to the business too, or we can apply anything else here. But they had a great mix of good product, good management, timing, and the piece that I really loved most about it, they really talked to their customers often. And that is a piece that I see so many startups skip. You would think that they would go and talk to their customers and ask them, what do you use? Why do you use it? What's hard to use? But they don't. And that information is gold because it helps you make the next iteration of your product. It helps formulate your marketing messaging. It's huge. And they did a really good job of doing that.
And you realize we've just come full circle in this conversation, right? We lean on software to automate things. And you want to try to scale through automation by 10xing everything. But at the end of the day, if you lack the human element, it's difficult to scale. What's the right salad dressing on that mix?
You know, I'm thinking the first thing that popped into my head when you said that was actually ChatGPT. Roll with me for a second here.
We're rolling.
Okay. I think AI, for instance, automation in this case of so many things, is a great tool, but it doesn't replace humans. I would like to just say that, right? It's a good supporter of, it's a good complement to, but it does not replace. And that's kind of how I feel about this, like this mixture here, right? You can automate a lot. And even with surveys or, there's customer outreach that can be automated, but personal conversations, they never go out of style. You're going to get so much out of that. You can't remove that from the building process.
I think there's a new labor class that should be classified by the U.S. Department of Labor. And I think in the future, people that have a warm, soothing voice and a good bedside manner are going to be necessary. And probably every new startup has to employ 10 of those people, because there's no way they can be successful if they don't have nice people that want to talk to you. Because frankly, I know I speak for Matt and I, we are tired of being rerouted to Southeast Asia every time there's a help desk question or some issue.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Or just not picking up the phone, right?
Yeah, I mean, no help.
Listen, I use Chase as my bank. I've said it multiple times. Their technology is the best, but have you tried to open an account with them recently? Have you tried to get an appointment to make anything? I remember 15 years ago, not that long ago, I just had the banker that I would call and everything would be taken care of. That's gone.
Yep.
Because they're just trying to increase earnings per share at this point, right?
Yep.
And I think that's where the advantage is with a lot of startups in the fintech space, if they can marry in that human element to what to what everybody's useful. Still give them fast and usable software, but you also can't forget about that human touch at the end of the day.
It's sad. That really may be a differentiator. It genuinely makes me sad that that's what's going to be a differentiator.
Ian, let us run a scenario with you, because you mentioned something earlier that I think is a salient point in business, whether it's startups or any other business. The ability to be agile and to pivot, because I'm certain you've worked with dozens, if not hundreds, of startups that had a certain vision on day one, but by day 180, it was 180 degrees. So how do you, in curating a message, work with that? Like you have a telehealth firm that says, you know what, we are going to conquer the dental industry. And then they realize, well, it's tough to kind of do that because I have to put this metal device inside your mouth. Okay, scratch that. We're going to focus on chiropractors. Well, there's only so much contortion I can do on my own. Okay, let's go back to, you see where I'm going here?
Yes.
Like, how do you constantly amend your approach to their constant fluctuating message?
It's a great question, because truthfully, it's something that I'm still learning to deal with. If we're having an honest conversation here, which we are, I am very adaptable. I would have to be to work in these scenarios that you're outlining. And I'm actually in this particular scenario right now. I've had a long-time client. We've changed our target audience several times, and it's very common, because in order to really find product market fit, you have to test things. You just, again, like, it's like that. Are we going to get the messaging right out of the gate? Probably not. And my head does spin some days, because I'm like, whew, all right, changing directions again. Got to go back to the drawing board. And that's not always a great recipe for success, quite honestly, and for consistency, and for being able to test to see if something is really going to work. So I think for me, setting up some good boundaries and expectations of, okay, if we're going to change our strategy again, we got to let this run for 3 months. We got to let it run for 4 months just to see, because if we're changing quicker than that, how do we really know if this was the one or not the one? So you have to put up some guardrails to say, yes, it's going to work, or no, it's not. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
It makes total sense.
It makes a lot of sense. However, when you're dealing with somebody that's a startup that's underfunded, probably not taking money for themselves, and marketing's not coming through because they think the minute they hire you, you're the magic bullet that they've been looking for, right?
Totally.
What do you tell them? What should we look for? Do you go back and you audit everything that they've done, and you look at the open rates and see what converts at what thing, and then at what moment do you make a change? Should they just be looking at new users? Should they be looking at traffic? There's a million different things.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us in this case, a lot of it came down to conversations with key opinion leaders in the industry to say, like, I wouldn't use this, but XYZ would. And we would go talk to XYZ, and they were like, yeah, this is amazing. I'm going to go tell my friend. And you start to see it's a lot of sales traction. So sales obviously is one very key indicator. Website traffic. I mean, some of this is vanity, but I will say, if you've changed your audience and suddenly the engagement goes up on social, the sales start to pick up, people start to say they recognize you at conferences, the messaging is finally resonating. To me, that's like, okay, something is clicking. You have to dig a little deeper at that point to figure out what exactly is it that's clicking. Is it the messaging? Is it the audience? Is it which variable worked? But I think it's kind of all of those things suddenly start to gel, which is what we've seen now. I think we finally nailed down our correct audience. And for me, it was like suddenly the sales started coming in like this. And you knew. Yeah.
So, Anne, my partner's always had this dream of setting up a startup for a ghost kitchen. And his dream is to mass produce Staten Island pizza for the masses. He wants Staten Island pizza all over North America. And I said, no, I mean, it's got to be Brooklyn pizza. Brooklyn pizza is better. If we're going to do ghost kitchens, it's got to be Brooklyn pizza, right? And we're always going back and forth. What's your humble opinion, Miss New Haven, Connecticut?
New Haven pizza? Always.
Hey, listen, I've been in Florida for 8 years now. I will take Staten Island pizza, Brooklyn pizza, or New Haven pizza if any of you want to send it to me.
You got it.
So let me ask you this. So even though you started working in startups, you had small teams around you. You told me you pivoted prior in 2020 to go work on your own. That's still a very big transition for somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So how did you got the entrepreneur? Well, you were a startup, so you still got that entrepreneur in you, right? I gotta believe, but you wanted to go scratch your own itch, for lack of a better saying, right?
Yeah.
What made differences in your business, and what were you nervous about, and what made you take that final leap?
Oh, I have been so fortunate and lucky in all of the things, right, to have had a really great support system and mentors around me that I can ask questions of and to and lean on the days when I'm like, did I make the right call? And just to teach me. And when I let people know that I was starting my own business, just colleagues that I had worked with were so happy to pick up the phone to be like, hey, this is the invoicing software I use, or hey, this is, questions like that you just haven't thought about if you've never run your own business. And it was really lovely. It was still scary, but it was just nice to know that people kind of opened up, they came to me with open arms, like, yes, ask me questions. My dad ran his own business when I was a kid. He's retired now. And I always said, I want to do that too. I didn't know what it was. I know my dad was a lawyer. I didn't want to be a lawyer, but I wanted to do my own thing. And so I knew I'd been working with a business coach. I knew at some point it was going to be time. And that just seemed like the time. And I have a good friend of mine that is the CEO of a startup. She was my first client. She still is a client now. And it was really comforting to also be able to kind of have her as client one and be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I'm so glad that I did. It's still scary and I still have a lot to learn, but it's been really rewarding. And, now 3.5 years in, things are going okay.
So I know you're focused and you started in the fintech space. Does that still make up the majority of your clients right now?
No, actually, I have had fintech clients. Right now, I actually have a lot of animal health clients.
Okay.
I also have an AI client. My clients are all over the place. And truthfully, the thing that is really most important to me is the founder and the founder relationship. I really want to work with good people. I want to work with people that are open and looking to make a difference with the product that they are bringing to the world. I have not always considered marketing to be a super noble profession. So to me, the only way I can make this be and feel noble is if I get to work with awesome people that are trying to do good. And so that's more important to me than the industry itself.
I like that. So where do you see yourself going next? Are you running a big team underneath you? Are you planning on hiring and growing? What are you looking for an exit? Are you looking for funding one day? What's the game plan for you?
Oh man, I don't see myself ever having a huge team.
Okay.
Maybe a team of one or two at some point. I like being a solopreneur for sure. I like the flexibility that this gig brings. I don't know. I think, for me, it's figuring out the best way that I can bring a product that is helping others and also feeding the lifestyle that I want, which is to be flexible and see my family and less stress.
Hey, I get it. I spent 17 years on Wall Street and I left because exactly what you just said. So, Luigi was the same way. And, having that freedom and that flexibility is a big thing,
Yeah, it is.
So I can definitely understand that. So what is one thing that you want the audience to take away when it comes to marketing? What should they be looking at?
I think, I loathe the word authentic, but I think something that's key when you are marketing your business is to remember the customer that is going to buy it and think about how you really truly connect with them. And I say the word, I hate the word authentic, but a genuine connection. Think about how you can make a genuine connection with your audience. And that is what's going to ultimately resonate. It may not even feel like marketing at that point, but that's what's going to sell your product.
Interesting. Now, do you bring a certain style into your marketing and you're like, this is the way I write my copy. This is the way I do things, right? I'm a little witty. I'm a little, I'm not for everybody type of scenario. No. Yeah. How do you generalize and think about the clients actually, but is it the style of the company? Is there a process for that? Because I mean, if you're working with a white shoe law firm and then you're going to a scrappy startup that's trying to disrupt everybody, there's a little bit of difference.
No. That kind of, I almost call them like heart-centered founders, right? Okay. Definitely people that are open, flexible, looking to do good. And so some examples here, one of my clients is in immunotherapy cancer treatment. The other one is in the diagnostic testing space for animals to provide better wellness and healthcare for animals, right? So these founders they're very open, they're very honest, they want feedback, they want to help change the world with whatever capacity that they have available to them. And so those are the types of founders I'm really looking for. Someone I think and that's the style that I bring too, because I'm similar to that. I'm very open. I love feedback. I love connecting with my own clients. And that's really, I like to kind of embed myself into the organization. I'm not good at being separate, right? I want to feel like I'm part of your team. I want you to feel like I'm part of your team. And that's definitely how I work. So I'm a consultant, but I'm not sure it ever really feels that way for me or the client.
I love that. And I want to be respectful of your time. Can you tell everybody where they can find you on the socials or get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on my website, finmarketingm.com. And you can definitely email me if you want to. It's anne@finmarketingm.com.
And that course that you have that's coming out, that's going to be on your website as well for everybody?
Yes, it definitely will. Coming out early January, and very excited to launch that.
I'm very excited to buy it and see what you got for everybody. And thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. I do have one question before I let you run.
You got it.
If you could only put one ingredient in that salad, what would it be?
Oh, olives.
And that equates to email?
Totally. Yes.
And thank you so much. We appreciate you. Everybody, that's a wrap on the Liquid Lunch Project.
Thank you for listening to the show. And make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.